All right, so welcome everybody. Today we're doing my mixed bag sequence. So this is a mix of hips and spine, which is pretty much from a physiological perspective what we're doing with any yin class. We're doing one, the other, or both, generally speaking. Now I'm talking from a physiological perspective, not from a yogic energetic perspective, or from, you could say, even more spiritual perspective. So yoga, at least traditionally, is said to kind of affect us on all these levels, but I'm just going to focus on the physiological effects today. Okay, so hips and spine. We start with, well, let me just check. I always like to check, is there any questions before we get started? Usually there isn't, but I just like to check. Okay, so mixed bag. We start with the hips, specifically the hamstrings. So we take the right leg out straight, left foot to the inside of the thigh. Now you can support this knee with a block or something. You can support your forehead or forearms with a block, similarly. But we just want to relax forward and down, and we want to feel a stretch here. There are three things we want to experience. One is we want to feel safe with what we're doing. Two, we want to feel a specific stretch, which is going to be right here. And then three, we want to be just comfortable enough to hold the position for 3 minutes. So if having trouble with any of those, then contact me and we'll go over the specifics of what's going on, okay? Otherwise, we'll be here for 3 minutes. All right, let's switch sides. So it'll be the left leg that is straight this time, right foot to the inside of the thigh. Okay, and then again, we'll be here for 3 minutes. The hamstrings are, generally speaking, in most modern people, they're really, really tight, and that comes from sitting in a chair at a desk all day, or sitting on a couch, or whatever it might be. These muscles are in a position where they become very short over time. So most people, this is going to be a pretty important stretch. Okay. Now we're going to make one small change, and believe it or not, that's going to change the emphasis of what we're doing. So we take both legs now straight, and again we come forward, and it might seem like nothing has really changed, but what in theory is happening, and what I think your experience will be, is we're not stretching back here anymore. You probably won't feel much stretch in the hamstrings. Instead, we're targeting here. Now, we want this to be a gentle stretch. We don't want it to be super intense. So don't try pulling yourself down to make it feel really intense. Just let it be a gentle stretch. Let your upper body relax. And what will happen here is it will decompress the low back, which again gets compressed from sitting in a chair all day. Okay, 3 minutes here. All right, now we rebound. So to rebound, you want to come very slowly onto your back. If you move too quickly, you will probably feel like you need to counter stretch immediately. And what we want to do is wait for the counter stretch. So unwind onto your back, still your body and close your eyes, and turn your attention inward to your physical sensations in your body. They might be pleasant or unpleasant. They might be very subtle, almost indetectable, or quite pronounced. It might be interesting or boring. But the practice of rebounding is just allowing whatever it is to be what it is, without trying to fix it, judge it, or even understand it, or create a story about it. This is called presence. It has nothing to do with, again, creating a story, understanding things, trying to change things. And it's really the beginning of meditation. Meditation transcends all spiritual or religious traditions. Meditation's found all around the world. So it really isn't a religious thing. It really is a transhuman thing. All right, let's bring our legs in. We'll give them a nice squeeze, shake it off a little bit. I encourage you to move in whichever way helps create balance and bring some relief to your body. This is our counter stretch. And in a yin class, generally you want the counter stretch to involve movement. Okay, now we will continue with the hinge, hands under the hips, palms down. Lift the legs, lift the head and neck. Exhale, lower the legs toward the ground. Just before they touch, pause, inhale up, and exhale up to seated. Okay, we'll turn to face the long side of the mat. We take the legs straight and wide, and you notice that my feet are on the mat. So you basically want, it's more important that your feet be on the mat than your tush. So if you have to choose between the two, because we want those ankles padded. Now, you can sit on something, many people do for this, and it can be very helpful. We'll fold over the left foot. Now you can use a strap, but you want to hold the foot. Okay, you can even bend this knee if you need to. But we're going to hold the foot, and we're not pulling or yanking. We're just holding ourselves over this leg. And what we want to feel is a stretch here in the right waist and ribs. So right in here, maybe up in here a little bit. Okay, and this is called half dragonfly. It's stretching the obliques, which are the muscles here. It's also decompressing the right side of the spine and slightly compressing the left side. The decompression helps to draw nutrients into those tissues, especially the soft tissues, the vertebral discs. And then it also compresses on the left side, pushing out toxins out of those same soft tissues. All right, let's go ahead and switch sides here. So we'll fold over the right foot this time, and we want to feel it in our left waist and ribs. And again, we'll be here for 3 minutes. All right, one more pose before we rebound. Let's come into tabletop. So we're still facing the long side of the mat. Again, we want the knees on the mat. Those are generally the most sensitive area. And with the hips directly over the knees, we will now take the knees as wide as they can go. Now you can stay up on your hands, you can drop down to your elbows, your feet can be together or apart. And you want to feel the stretch in the inside of your thighs, the groin. Okay, your hips can remain over the knees or you can press them back. For some people that creates a better stretch. Now the head's quite heavy, so feel free to support it with a block or something. All right, let's go ahead and come on out of there. And let's rebound in child pose. You could also lay on your belly. That's called crocodile. Okay, now we'll counter stretch, and this will be a little different. So we'll be in tabletop position, and this is our bear pose. So we can roll the head and neck. We can shrug the shoulders. We can move the spine forward and back. And we can drop the hips from side to side. And when you're done with that, you can come into down dog, rolling the toes, circling the ankles, pedaling the feet back and forth, and even kicking the legs in the air. All right, let's transition now. We'll come into the sleeping swan next. So right knee toward right wrist. The hips come down and back. You could stay up on your hands if you like, but most people come down onto their elbows. You can place a block under here if your hip's in the air like mine, but it's not required. You want to feel a stretch here. Your right foot could be tucked under your hip. It could be drawn up level with your knee so that your shin bone is parallel with the front of the mat or anywhere between those 2 points. The foot could flex or point, and this knee could point straight ahead or angle out to the side quite a bit. Mine's at a little bit of an angle, okay? The hips can rock to the right or to the left, and those are pretty much your options for this posture. Remember, there are 3 things we want to be experiencing. We want to feel safe. We want to feel stretch here, and those are the glutes. It could be down here as well, in this area. And then finally, we want to be comfortable enough to hold it. Okay, let's go ahead and switch sides. This is our sleeping swan, our glute stretch. So the glutes are this big, powerful muscle that we have here, or muscles, I should say. They are our main locomotor, if you will. So when we're running, walking, climbing, biking, squatting, these muscles are being used. And I'd say this is a huge generalization, but they probably are the muscle that works hardest for us in our modern living situation. As much as we may be sedentary, almost everyone still walks some. Even if it's just walking to your car or walking to your fridge. Most of us still occasionally have to climb a set of stairs. So whereas a lot of our other muscles in our body, like our upper body especially, we can get away with not doing hardly any work in our upper body for long periods of time, and we can get a lot of weakness and bone degradation as a result of that. The glutes still get quite a bit of work. And so for most people, this is going to be a pretty satisfying stretch. There's usually still tension in this group, and it's a large group, so it's usually a real juicy stretch. Okay, let's do one more pose before we take a rebound, and this will be our back bend, Sphinx or seal. So we come onto the belly, prop ourselves up on the elbows. Now you want to feel a little bit of compression in your back. So if you don't, then you can straighten your arms and do seal instead. The variations for the two are the same: head held up, drop forward, or dropped back, shoulders depressed or relaxed, legs together or apart. right, let's come down and rebound. You can do that on your belly, or you can do it in a child pose. Okay, let's counter stretch. So we come into tabletop. We could do some bear there. Again, bear is going to target your neck, your shoulders, your spine, and your hips. You can also do the down dog. That will target your feet and legs, your toes more. And you can do one or the other, a little bit of both, depending on what you feel that you need here. Okay, let's come into let's come back onto our belly. I was getting ahead of myself there. So laying back on belly, I'll turn so hopefully I can continue facing the camera here. Let's pull the left knee up alongside our left ribs. We take the right leg and move it back, and then bending the bottom knee, we grab the foot and pull it in towards the buttocks. You should feel a stretch in the front of the right hip and thigh. So a few things to consider is the front leg. Is it straight? Is it bent? Is it closer to your face or further from your face? Generally speaking, for most people, the straighter the leg is and the closer it is to your face, the deeper or more intense the posture will be. So if it feels kind of weak, that's a good choice. On the other hand, some people find this really intense. So in that case, you might bend your knee and push it down away from your face, okay? I've kind of split the difference. I have the knee bent, but I have it pretty high up toward me. Now with your head, you can keep it where it is, but you can also rest your head on your upper arm. You can rest it on a blanket, on a block, or even straight on the ground. The shoulders should either be stacked, as I have mine, or you can lay your left shoulder back toward the ground behind you, and that will create a deeper twist and deeper back bend. Cattail is all of the above. It is a hip flexor and quad stretch, it is a twist, and it's also a back bend. Finally, there's the foot that you're holding. Pulling it in toward your buttocks will generally be what most people do. However, you do have the option, while still holding the foot, to actively kick it behind you. This is a lot like other yoga postures, like the floor bow, or the standing bow, or the dancer pose. So this is another option available to you. Remember, there are three things that generally you're measuring your options against. Does it make me feel more or less safe? Does it improve the stretch at the front of my right hip or thigh? And then finally, does it make me more or less comfortable? Doing yin postures is usually going to be a balancing act of all of these. So as I improve in one area, let's say comfort, I might find that I am sacrificing the integrity of the stretch. I no longer feel the stretch. On the other hand, as I increase the stretch, I might find I'm beginning to feel unsafe. So again, it's not like there's one perfect position. It's usually a balancing act, and that can change from day to day or even from moment to moment. Okay, let's switch sides. Again, the only reason I'm turning is so I can continue to face the camera. You shouldn't need to do that. Just roll over to the other side. Okay, so coming back onto your belly, press back to a kneeling position on the front half of your yoga mat. Okay, now you have options here. You can sit on your heels, you can sit between your heels, and you can also sit on a block or two. The knees can be together or apart. And for most people, there are two areas that create problems for them with this posture. So the first one is the feet. So feet and ankles. So if the bones in your feet are pressing into the mat and it's very uncomfortable, then my recommendation is grab a towel or a blanket and add some extra padding. If the ankles hurt, roll a towel or blanket up and place it underneath the ankle joint so it does not need to straighten completely. Now remember that your toes can point back, but for some people out to the sides will feel better, okay? Now there are the knees. What should you do if your knees hurt? You have two possibilities, two options. One is you can sit higher. The other is you can take your knees wider. You of course can do both at the same time. So higher will reduce the flexion at the knee joint, and wider reduces the tension on the quadriceps, okay? So you can try those. Now, once you feel that you are okay with what's happening with your knees and your feet and ankles, maybe you're not completely comfortable, but that's not important. You feel safe. See if you feel a stretch in the front of your thighs. Now, if you do, you're going to stay there because that's enough stretching for today, for one day, okay? Over time, these muscles may open up and it might allow you to go further in the pose. But if you do not feel a stretch here, then you're probably not getting much benefit yet. So you'll begin to lower back to your hands, elbows onto the, you could lay on a bolster or on the crown of your head or all the way flat on your back, okay? And at a certain point, you'll begin to feel the quads stretch, or you'll feel some compression in your back, or a little bit of both. Very common question for this one is, what happens if my knees come up? Is that a problem? It's not a problem unless you're feeling that it is. So if your knees come up and you feel extremely unstable or unsafe, then that's not something we want to feel. Again, safety is the first thing I almost always mention that we want to experience. So our idea of what is and isn't safe can change over time. That's natural, right? Let's say you're doing something, driving a car for the first time. You might feel extremely unsafe doing that, right? There are dangers involved. I think most of us at this stage in our lives, when we get in the car, we feel safe. We're not hyperventilating. Our heart isn't beating out of our chest because we feel unsafe. Is it still potentially dangerous? Yes. But do we feel unsafe? No. So experience has a lot to do with what we do and don't feel safe with. And that's true in yoga too. So if this is new to you or this posture is new to you, then yes, you might want to err on the side of caution, right? Better safe than sorry. But over time, most people get more accustomed to how to position their body. They get more accustomed to the sensations and what to expect. And so over time, their idea of what feels safe may begin to expand and change. Okay, let's come out of this posture and back on our back to rebound. All right, let's bring our legs in, counter stretch a bit. And at this point, you have two options. One is to continue your relaxation, essentially what in yoga we call shavasana. So that can last, 5 or 10 minutes, or really as long as you like. You might feel very relaxed at this point. Another option is to get up and get on with your day. In yin, we do the rebound between the postures, so the long relaxation at the end isn't as important as it is in, say, a vinyasa style class. So I want to thank you all for coming. I hope you got a lot from our time together. If there are any questions, do please reach out, let me know. Otherwise, I'll hope to see you next time.